Most people see a gala, they show up, it's pretty, but there's a lot of planning that goes into every single detail that you see as you walk through those doors. Events are project management. 101, 201, 301, because it's a project. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end. A lot of companies and organizations don't realize when you don't have a professional working with you, you might be burning out your volunteers, you might be burning out your staff, and so bringing in an event team is really important. What does success look like? That's one of the first questions we ask. Is it having 10 more people in the room? Is it raising $10,000 more dollars? Knowing all of those things along the way is really going to help any event be not only successful, but making it something that people want to come back to year after year.
Events aren't just moments on a calendar. They're chapters in the stories we share. If you've ever wondered how the design becomes dialogue, how creativity can build community, or how storytelling turns into a gathering of impact, then this episode is for you. Today's guest is Deci Evans, founder and creative director of Kind & Co Events, a team known for designing with heart, intention, and purpose.
Oh.
Hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Both of us just coming off of a crazy gala season. I think we started this conversation of getting you here a couple months ago, and it's like, all right, we finally found a day that works.
Yeah, gosh, the season, it's always nice when it kind of winds down and you can, like, your brain
Breathe
is open
again.
It's like, oh wait, there were some things that I need to do, so I'm glad that I'm able to be here today.
Yeah, I like to start this show off always with, like, what got you to this seat? What was your earliest Elite Collective and or Carlos Imani memory?
Yeah, so probably 3 or 4 years ago, my company decided we needed to start doing things down in the Seattle area, and I got to meet some really cool event professionals, and somebody referred me to do the service board event, and that was my first glimpse of your company, and I was blown away. I was just like, these guys know what they're doing, and gals know what they're doing. It was a beautiful event. It was fun. You were just still doing some live streaming, and the whole AV setup, just working with your team was amazing for me. And so, I mean, that's how I met you, and I was really just like glad to be part of that sphere. And then we've worked together on that event a few more times, and then just some other events. One of the events that I did was getting to know Black and Brown owned businesses, and y'all provided the AV for that, which was amazing. And yeah, and I just loved being part of your sidekick team.
I appreciate that. And yeah, no, TSB, the service board, they're fun. They're a fun group. But it was a lot of fun working with you on that event. With their annual soiree, they always have a fun theme and doing fun things around that. And yeah, I think that first one, we were still hybrid. Mm-hmm. So those always have those interesting dynamics of recording and making sure it's a good experience in person and having it be a good experience online as well. And I think for them, making that decision to work with an event planner was keen, where it's like, okay, we want to come hybrid and we want to do this well. And I think a lot of people are kind of on that fence where they might be doing an event where, okay, it's either growing in size mm-hmm. or capacity, depending on the team members that you have. Nonprofits by nature tend to be a mighty but small group, right? Where
yes.
a lot of people are wearing a lot of hats. And I always feel that it's one of those things of, hey, why don't you guys focus on what you do well? And a lot of that is like client relations, donor relations, things that us event professionals can't do, and then lean on us to handle those other pieces. But if you can speak a little bit about that of like, when does it make sense for someone to get with an event like yourself?
Yeah, I think it always makes sense, honestly, because a lot of companies and organizations don't realize, when you don't have a professional in, working with you, you might be burning out your volunteers. You might be burning out your staff. I mean, your staff is there to, they're being paid to do a job, and you now have, this person calling caterers, looking for vendors, trying to find a space. Meanwhile, their job is being, forgotten about during this period. And so bringing in an event team is really important. The other thing too is, for organizations, they rely a lot on volunteers. A lot, which is great. The volunteers are the backbone of so many nonprofits. But again, you have that burnout and you have attrition or turnover when folks are done with the organization, or, they age out of a school or whatever it is. You're left with no history or no data to, show what these folks did. And so bringing in an event professional like myself or your team really can help not only elevate an event, but help keep your team sane, for lack of a better word. So,
Keep it together. No, I appreciate that for sure. What inspired you to start Kind & Co?
Yeah, so I was one of those volunteers. And so when my son and my daughter were younger, I was always one of the parents who stepped up to help, whatever that was. I was the Girl Scout leader. I was the cook for the scouting trips. I was all the things. I was part of the PTA at my son's school. And so I was the person that was, running it. I was the chair. I was, getting the sponsors, getting the volunteers, doing the training, doing all the things. And one day somebody said to me, and it was just so poignant, we need someone who is doing your job so you can actually sit and finish a meal. And I was like, we do need that. And so as my son grew out of the school, he's now like in junior high school, and the school kept asking me to come back to do the event. And I was like, my kid doesn't go to school here, guys. And they're like, well, nobody else can do it like you can do it. And I said, well, if you need me to come, if you want me to come, you're gonna have to pay me. And they said, okay. And I was like, is this a real job? Do people get paid to do this? What's happening here? And so that was when the real light bulb went off. And so I started to get some education on what this business entailed, and, what I needed to know to really be successful. And here we are, Kind & Co. events at your service.
I love it. I love it. And I love how it came out of something that you were already doing, right? And I think a lot of successful businesses, they do a good job of mixing something that you're good at and something that you enjoy doing, something that you love doing. And for you, it was like, this is my son's school. Like, this is my baby, right? An extension of. Yeah. So he deserves the best, so I'm going to give it to him. And then you just had some soft skills and some hard skills to kind of put it together, not really knowing what it was, but you were doing it. And that's kind of cool, where then you look back, you're like, oh wait, this is like a whole job. I found that in my lane through consulting. And I was like, wait, this is the whole, people get paid to do this? Just talk to people? Like, I've been dropping jewels like for years and have not put it on one invoice. And I've been trying to do a better job. We call it pre-production. So some of our clients are like, what am I paying this for? I'm like, remember those meetings we was having? Yeah. And I was giving you all those ideas? Yeah, we need to get paid for that. Yeah. And they're like, okay, that makes sense. But it all came from just like, I'm hearing something and I'm like, oh, well, yeah, here's a cool way you could, try to solve that. And for you, it was like, oh, we need to do this thing. Like, yeah, let me help put this together and put these pieces together. And then it was like, oh, wait, this is like a whole thing. And I love how they saw the value. Right. And that's the biggest thing. Sometimes it's like, not so much you having to toot your horn or send in the proposal. Sometimes just you not being there shows them how important the role is.
Yes. Yeah, that happens quite a bit. I actually have a client that same thing happened to. So they hired us the first year, and then the next year they said, oh, we got this. We know.
We got the spreadsheet from last year.
And they did. And I looked at the photos and I was like, that's close. And then the next year they're like, okay, we need you to come back. And so we came back. And then the next year they're like, oh, Janie's always wanted to do this on her own, so we're going to let her do it. I was like, okay. Well, now we're 4 years into them not letting us go. So we're good. But sometimes it does take that, not having that person, professional, whoever in the space to really make you see that this person is valuable and this service is valuable, which is what we really want people to see and know.
And it's never good to hear, because it's like, all right, it almost feels like being fired. But for you, I think it's almost a testament, because you guys made it look so easy. Mm-hmm. And it went so good. Yeah. And it looked so easy that they're like, oh, we could do this.
We got this.
And then they quickly find out, oh, no, we cannot.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things with my company, because we do keep things really calm, especially during the event and leading up to the event. I may not have a lot of, meetings or conversations, but there's a lot happening in the background that people don't see. And, as event professionals, we all know that. And then just like you said, it looks easy. It's like, Well, we could have figured that out. I got the timeline or the check sheet, and we've got this. And they learn that they do need some additional assistance, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
And that's okay. We welcome you back under the tent.
Exactly.
All are welcome. But yeah, no, it's definitely interesting to see that and just kind of, know that that service is there, that, even though you may have someone on your team that has some of those skill sets, like you were saying, they also have another full-time job. So unless you want to make them the event coordinator position of your business, then that can definitely be a large ask to do with the burnouts and all the things.
Exactly.
But what would you say would be like that organization that is thinking about having you or having an event planner? What's kind of like that light bulb that makes sense of, like, is it the amount of people? Is it the amount of like the space that they're trying to get to, the amount of money they're trying to raise? Like, when does it like click where it's like, you know what, I really need a professional for this?
What I've learned is it's really the ones that try it themselves, and then the person who did it says, absolutely not. I'm not doing it again. No. And then sometimes they'll bring us in just kind of like as a day of kind of help, which is great, because then it leads to the full production usually, because they still see that there's things that we can do to help them make their event successful. So, once the person says they tap out, usually it's a pretty easy sell to bring in an event company. So, we've done events from, 30 people to 1,000 people. So there's not really a number, but it's really, like I said, that person just feeling like, I just can't do this anymore. Or someone coming from an organization that had an event staff or event team that they brought in, an external team, and coming over to a new place saying, you guys, what are you doing? You don't have to do all this stuff. There are people out there that will help because you have other things to do, especially when it's a nonprofit who, their role is to really be out in the community or, talking to their donors or cultivating their audiences and, really knowing where plates and chairs and tables are coming from is not what they need to focus on. They need to focus on their mission and getting that word out to their communities.
No, I love that. And actually, you just saying that and listening to you right now, I had to kind of check myself real quick in the sense of I have a behind the scenes kind of look at all the stuff that you do. So I inherently know all of it. But for folks that, again, are thinking about doing it, that might be on the fence, can you explain a little bit about what does an event planner bring to the table? Like, what does it kind of entail? What kind of work are you guys taking off of their plate?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is really the organization of the plan. When you think about, I'll just say a gala, most people see a gala, they show up, it's pretty, the food is amazing, the space, is big and it's comfortable, but there's a lot of planning that goes into every single detail that you see as you walk through those doors. So, from the beginning, it's really figuring out the date. I mean, something as simple as that, because, just think about what's happening. FIFA's coming. And so with everything that's going on with FIFA, we pick April 15th. Well, what else is happening on April 15th? So you really have to understand what's happening in the industry, what's happening in your vicinity, the places that you want to have it. How does that look for your guest? Are you picking an area that's 15 miles away from where your business is? Is that too far? What about the rest of the people who are coming to be part of this event? So you have to really, it just starts with the date, and then from there it just builds out. So now you have to find a caterer, or is the caterer you want available. I mean, all the things that go into producing a successful event, you have to think of every single detail. So we got a space, we got a caterer, we've got the date. Now, how are we getting people in the door? Is my team helping with marketing? Are we sending out social blasts? Are we looking at graphic design for you? Am I hiring a graphic designer on your behalf to put whatever it is you want out into the community? Now people are coming. What are they seeing? Did I have to get a designer? Is that person on my team? Is that an external designer? I mean, all these elements are all part of this project, and that's really what it is. And I say this a lot. Events are project management 101, 201, 301, because it's a project. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the end is not when the doors are closed and the people leave. You still have now we have a debrief meeting. How did it go? What worked? What didn't work? What could we do better next time? Was the price point right? Was the food okay? I mean, all of the things that go into every single step that you took to make the event happen, and now discussing the event happening, and then is it going to happen again? Was it successful? What does success look like? That's one of the first questions we ask. What is success going to look like to you? Is it having 10 more people in the room? Is it, raising $10,000 more dollars? What does success look like? And, knowing all of those things along the way is really going to help any event be not only successful, but making it something that people want to come back to year after year.
Oh, I love that. So it sounded like essentially you're gaining a partner.
Absolutely.
You have someone that can hold your hand regardless of your experience. If you've never done events, if you've done a couple of events, if you've just been to events, or even if you've done a lot of events at a previous job, but you don't have that same support that you might have had, someone like yourself and Kind & Co. can be that partner to help them. And like you said, it can be for 50 people. And sometimes that 50-person event might have way more details than that 1,000-person event, depending on, who the clientele is and all of that kind of stuff. And so I definitely appreciate where it's not really a number. It's more of, like you said, what are your goals? What I was hearing, what you were saying is what we kind of think of as like guest experience.
Yeah, guest
like,
experience.
what do you want them to smell? What do you want them to see? What do you want them to feel from the moment they walk in to they register, to they go get their first drink, to they step into that photo booth. Shout outs to Elite Collective with the photo booth. We got you. And all those things is all part of it. And it's valuable because, if you're doing an event, like that's a big part of it. Generally, you want whoever's there to have a good and positive experience. And we're hoping that they care about what you have going on. I think if they're at your event, for most nonprofits, it's like, they know enough about you guys and they care enough about you guys to be there. But what I think the guest experience does might determine how much you're able to raise.
Yeah.
And that's what can set you apart from having an event planner to not having an event planner, from having a dedicated, supportive AV company versus like the standard, hey, this comes with the room AV situation. And those are those things that can set your event apart.
Yeah. And, you said something, the look, the smell, the sights, all of that. One thing that I do for every event, it doesn't even matter if I've done it 7 times, if I've done it 1 time, is I actually will close my eyes and walk myself through the event and really think about what I'm seeing. Am I at the registration desk? Is there a backlog? Why is there a backlog? And then I have to think of myself as the event planner. What would I do to eliminate this backlog? Why is this here? Why are people stuck in this spot? And I think it makes a big difference because then it helps me, like when I'm finally at the space and going, okay, I see now why, in my mind I was feeling this way, but it's because there's another table over here and that table shouldn't be there. So let's, work that out before people start coming through the doors.
Yeah, no, and it's those little things where having an event planner that is thinking about those things is one less thing you have to think about or worry about or bother yourself with as the organization.
Exactly.
So again, you can focus on other things, and I think is just time well spent. I've been to a ton of events and been a part of events, successful and ones that had challenges, and I think more times than not, having an event planner is gonna set it apart. And then again, it's not. I had a chef on here earlier that was talking about food, where it's like, a lot of people can cook, not a lot of people can cook good. And the same thing with like the event planner, right? Just kind of finding that person that you connect with, you know what I mean? That has, similar values. And I think that just kind of gets you is what I think is something that folks should be drawn to. So like for TSB, it's like, you get them. Like it just is very just obvious from just being on the Zoom meetings with you guys, where it's like, okay, these humans are communicating. Yeah. They understand each other. And I think that's an important part. Like, hey, we're going to be holding each other's hands for these next 9 months. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
we're going to be friends.
Right. Like, it's like, all right, how would you pick your roommate? You want to pick someone that you get along with, that you can stand.
Well, I just want to say too,
Yeah.
things go wrong in events. I mean, we all
Yeah,
know that. There's
yeah.
always going to be something that
It's going to be something. We don't know what it's
we
going to
don't know what's
be,
gonna be.
but there's going to be something.
Yeah, and where a good event professional can help you is how they react to that thing. Because if they react poorly, it's going to set the tone. But if they react in a way that is, calming and like, you know what, we got this, let's just figure it out. Let's figure it out. Or what's better is you don't even know because they took care of it.
Right.
And so having that professional with you, knowing that they got your back, there's going to be things that you may not see, and that's totally fine. So
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's the main thing, right? Where one, how I rate events is I put guest experience first. I'm like, if their experience is poor, everything else is going to
Yep,
be poor
exactly.
regardless, where it's like your client might have had a wonderful time and not realize it was poor
Right.
for their guests or some of their guests or whatnot. So at the end of the day, that, I still feel like the guest experience would trump that of your client. But from there, then it would be, the client experience, like were they stressed out? What were you doing? Because the whole point is for you to alleviate them
Exactly.
from a lot of that. So,
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of times something's going to go wrong, like behind the scenes, the internet went down or we're having some audio issues, but we fix
Generator
it.
blew.
Right. We fix it in the we make it work.
We
A lot
make
of
it
times
work.
is what's happening. And that's how I am. A lot of times it's like, we'll figure out where the blame goes and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff later. But like right here, right now, very solution based. Like,
Yep.
sounds good. How are we going to fix it?
Yep.
Whatever. What are we going to do next?
Yeah,
How are we going to
absolutely.
pivot? And for a lot of times, the client doesn't even realize anything has happened. We'll talk about it in the post of like, hey, there were some challenges. Remember that I told you about? We needed that thing, and you didn't want to order it, and so this happened, and that's why. But we made it work. Whatever, right? But I think that's a big part of it is like, okay, how can you effectively, work with a partner
Right.
and be able to help alleviate a lot of those challenges? Because like you said, with live events, it's just something is going to
Something's
happen.
gonna-
That's just the law of the land. And it's like, how can you pivot? How can you adjust and make it work and have it to where your guest has no idea? Like, we're over here sweating and making it work, and they're just having a jolly old time. Like, oh, this was the best
Exactly.
event ever. I'm like,
Having a
if
damn
you only
party.
knew.
Meanwhile, we're like tapping out fires.
But that's how it should be, and that's why we're there. And I think that's what it's called to having that. So I always say, like, if you have it in your budget to, like you said, at the very least having someone like a Kind and Co there for your day of,
Yeah.
just to make sure the day works. A lot of times where people, if they can't really imagine it, I'm like, it's like having like a wedding planner for that day, just to make sure, as the bride, you shouldn't be worried about seating charts or any of those kinds of things. You have that person that's there that day. And then once you do that, then you're like, oh, wait, there's a whole nother side of life that could be like this on a regular basis. Can you meet in January so we can start planning our next one? It's like, yes, that's
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yes, and it's funny because I think people, sometimes they forget that we are full service, because we have done a lot of the day of, and I'm like, we are more than that. I can help you strategize. I can help you plan. I can find those amazing caterers, that AV team. What is it you need? Because I know who needs to be here with you, and it's like a light bulb goes off, and you can just feel like the weight just. The breath is out, and it's like, okay, you got this. So
More than just a day, but sometimes it takes that day to realize,
Yeah.
what it could be. And I think that's another thing as well. Is like sometimes people, they just don't see themselves as that $1 million night, 1,000-person gala. But it's like there's so many levels before that, and it's like you also deserve peace.
Exactly.
You also deserve quality.
Well, I think some people are afraid to let go too, because they've always done it, but they know they need the help, but it's just hard. And so we're there to hold hands. We're there. I will let you have as much involvement as you want, but just know that when you're ready to just be like, I tap out, I am here. Tap me in.
No, I love that. And then I think one thing I had a question on here was like, what's one thing that a lot of folks that in the event space from the client side, they're not seeing in terms of like the behind the scene truths. Like, what are some things that they're not seeing that happens behind the scenes. And this could be leading up to it, or even the night of like, oh, I didn't realize, or, essentially trying to help people, like help me help you before you make some of these choices.
So I think for me, I feel like people don't know like the nitty gritty. So you can have your big things that need to be planned. So like I said before, the venue, the caterer, the space, the tables and all of that. But then there's like stuff like printing, that nobody thinks about. It's like, when are we printing the bid sheets? When are we printing the name badges? It's those little things that the client has zero idea of that even needs to be done. So what ends up happening is, because I need these name badges, I'm looking at the guest list. Meanwhile, the client is looking at the guest list, knowing that there's still 20 people that aren't on it. And so, those are the little things that I think that people don't realize, that everything goes together. That's why I say it's project management. I can't print the name badges until I have the names. We don't have the names until the table captains give it to us. So there's this whole, song and dance that we have to do. And it's my job to make sure that everybody knows that we need these things and not be a pest.
Right.
Do you get it? Like there was a movie, it's like, you got my money? It's like, can you help me out here? I'm here for you. So those, just those, it's the little things that people just really don't see or don't even think about until maybe even the day of, where it's like, oh my gosh, did we print the name badges? And yes, we did. And we brought some blank ones too, just in case we don't have all the names, because, that happens.
Right, last minute.
Or somebody, got sick, or, so there's just like I said, little details that people just don't know that make things work successfully. And that's okay, because I do know.
Right. And that's why you have a friend. I definitely appreciate that. Now, yeah, we see a lot of those same things behind the scenes in terms of like what folks are trying to do on the AV side, where it's like, oh, we just thought that the band comes with mics that plug into the system. Like, we literally had an event where keyboardists showed up, and the event was like, hey, I want to introduce you to our keyboardist. I'm like, nice to meet you. And he's like, yeah, he's going to be playing over here. I'm like, is he now? Okay. This is literally, he's like, oh, I should have probably introduced you guys. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a big deal. 40 minutes before we go live to have a whole, instrument thing. And we made it work, but it's just like those things of like, them not having an event planner, right? It's like, by coalition, I think they're even volunteers of the organization.
Yeah.
And it's like they have their committees, but, they all have full-time jobs and kids and all the other things. And again, they mean well. And you had talked earlier about how people like age out of stuff, because they're all on like these, I think, 1 or 2 year things, and it's just new faces,
right.
New people get voted in, and now there's just new people going on, and it's just like, you just see it over and over, and like, I wish I could tell you, but you guys are going to forget in 2 years, because someone else is going to come in and all
there's
this
no
stuff.
book.
Right.
There's no book.
Right. And it's just
They
like,
took the book with
if
them.
you guys just had an event planner, then a lot of this could have been taken care of ahead of time. And, it is what it is with some of these events, but those that do have the ability to kind of make those decisions for the longevity, like, hey, we know we're going to do this dinner or this whatever annually, and it's like, well, do you want it to be good every year, or do you want it to be good for 1 year, and then it gets better the next year because those people were there, but then they're gone, then we're gonna be bad again. Right. and yeah, but that band thing was hilarious. So now I just lead with that every year, regardless of who it is. Like, what do we have for music? Like, oh yeah, let me, like, okay.
I'm going to ask you a question. How do you feel with the timing? Because I talk about this project management all the time, but with the timing of getting things to you as an AV team, what can us event
that's a fantastic question
to make sure that you guys are
fantastic
successful?
Question.
How do you feel with the timing? Because I talk about this project management all the time, but with the timing of getting things to you as an AV team, what can us event
Yeah, no,
people
that's a
do
fantastic
better
question.
to make sure that you guys are
Fantastic
successful?
question. I think it kind of leads into what you were talking about with FIFA, right? We're going to experience this tremendously. We also experienced it year 2 of coming back in person from COVID because you had literally all events, right? So we're talking from galas to birthdays to weddings, everything was canceled. So then everyone came back the next year and people are trying to figure it out, double up. There was
Yes.
all kinds of crazy stuff. But because of that, everything was just not available. Like a venue was just unheard of. Like you were not getting a Saturday for
Right.
whatever because they already had the people from last year and all the
Yeah.
things. But then on top of that, the secondary thing that happens from that is it's harder to get microphones. It's hard to get stages.
Right.
It's harder to
Everything.
get all the things that go with it. So FIFA coming to town, World Cup coming to town. That means, guess what? They're also going to need PA systems and venues
Tablecloths.
and all the things. And it's like our area only has so much, right? So one is the earlier the better. I mean, obviously, but for real, the earlier the better. Like figure out your date, figure out what you want so that things can get put on hold.
Right.
That's like the biggest thing. So it's like if you're thinking about an LED wall, let's have a talk. Let's get it on hold so we can get those panels for you. And you could release it later, or maybe it goes to a smaller size or something like that. You might not know. But let's talk about that same thing. Like, oh, we're thinking about a band. If you're even thinking about it, let's get that on hold.
Right.
All those kinds of things. So what I'd say is like, let's try to talk early about imagining what it could be. And it's like, if you got every sponsor, you had all the things, what would this event be? 'Cause that's usually what I find out is holding people back. They're like, oh, I do want this band, but I don't have this sponsor yet, so I'm not going to get him. And then the sponsor comes in 18 days out, we hire the band, but then we don't have any support for them.
Right.
Or it's like, how do we rearrange this room that's been set for the last 60 days to now have this second stage that's going to have this band? Where it's like, let's just start from there. Let's imagine if it was going to come, because it's easier to release things than try to just grab them out of
Right.
thin air if they're not there, right? So that's what I would suggest is like, imagine what it could be and just having these conversations early, just so people are even thinking about it. Because there's some times where someone will hit me up till 90 days out and it's like, oh, hey, remember that thing I talked to you about? We are going to make it happen. And literally, like, I'm like the last phone call after they have the venue, after they have the place, after they have the talent, all the stuff. And, I don't necessarily need to be a part of that conversation, but if you want high quality, curated AV experiences, we
Yeah.
do need to be a part of that conversation. So we can imagine, you had this other space, which is awesome, but are there any speakers in this area? Can they hear you
Right.
when you're trying to tell them anything in
Is
this
there
other
a
outside
plug?
area? Right. Is there power there? Do we need to bring generators? And again, all things are possible, but they might just be, booked out because we didn't grab them. And then also, what I would say to that is what also is helpful with that is then figuring out what are your other needs that are associated with these experiences you're trying to create. You had brought out power, but those are real things where if you go to a venue, you need to let the venue know what kind of power you need in order to give you power to this AV system or this LED wall or these lights or whatever it is. And some of that can be negotiated if you haven't signed your contract yet.
Exactly.
Because most of them is like, look, we're going to make this money off this food and beverage.
Right.
So that's what I want you to sign up for. But that's when you can say, all right, well, I see this sticker price of $3,000 for internet. What can we do with that?
What can we?
And this power situation, what can we do with that? We've had clients where it's like, they were the venue. And, I had a mentor tell me the panel of evil starts with convention centers, then hotels, then just event centers and other places in terms of just like the cost that comes with it. Because they know what they have. Like they
Right.
have this venue that can hold X amount of people.
Exactly.
There's no other venue that can hold X amount of people. And guess what? You have to get power from them because where else are you going to find power in this place? So generally, what you have is power and internet is something that is usually non-negotiable in the sense of you can't get it anywhere else.
Right.
But you can always negotiate within that, right? We have some really big players in the area, your Amazons, your Googles, your Microsofts and whatnot, and they have large budgets to produce at a very high level. So a lot of times that's where these numbers come from. But it's like in the spirit of this nonprofit event, like We didn't got it like
We
that.
didn't have it like
and,
that.
And a lot of times you're just turning the button on and off. Like this is a subjective price that you're just putting on this thing. And we saw,
How do I know how many amps I'm going to use? I
Right.
don't know.
and this price was very high, and then like last minute it was like it just magically gets cut in half. Like, oh, so you could have cut this in half this entire time, but you wanted to do the song and dance. And that's what just kind of taught me. And I always tell people, like, before you sign your contract, because usually you're signing your contract to secure the date, and it's usually associated with your food and beverage.
Right.
And they kind of tack on some of these other things. And most venues have like preferred vendors, but outside of power and outside of internet, most of the other things you don't have to use them. And a lot of times when they have conversations with us, we're able to bring those other prices down.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes where we don't even get the gig, but we get the venue to bring their prices down so much because they know that
That
we're
they
in
become
play. And
competitive.
it's like, well, at least they're winning in that sense. Because sometimes, like, for example, we can't compete with a drop down projector. If it literally lives in the room and they're pressing a button on a wall for it to come down and for it to turn on, me bringing in a projector or building an LED wall will not compete with their ability to just zero that out.
Right.
Because it doesn't really cost anything. Now, they're going to charge you $4,800 to press this button in order to use the thing. And granted, they had to pay for the projector. There is costs that are associated with that, but they tend to be like 3 times as much of what we're able to kind of compete with. So especially this last year, I've seen a lot of folks, their initial costs way lower than it was previously. And I'm like, oh, that's the elite collective effect of us at least bringing those prices down. But that also goes to show of there was a lot more room in that budget and wiggle room. And again, get it. I understand it. People need to make profits, but it's like pick and choose when that's going to happen. And if we're dealing with these mission-driven organizations, these fundraisers, like this ain't that. You know what I mean?
Or not. Just set your price.
Right.
Just set your price. It doesn't have to be so crazy because the Microsoft of the world or whatever, it can be the same for everyone.
Right.
Let's make it fair.
Yeah, I hear you there. But that's what I would say would be helpful for us is involve us early in the conversations. And it could be a thing of like, let's have a conversation in January just to kind of set the tone of, hey, this is what we're thinking.
Yeah.
We're going to revisit in May and our events in September.
I love that.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much because that really does help me a lot. Because just like you said, it's kind of like, oh yeah, and we need a AV, and my customer may say, can you find 3 people and let's take a look and see what they're doing. And when I'm tasked with that, I tell people this is a competitive quote. I'm asking 3 other people, so just know there's other people in play, so plan accordingly.
Right.
So yeah. All right. No,
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you.
No, absolutely. And then with that to the people is definitely try to negotiate with your power, with your internet before you sign. Because once you sign, you're kind of locked in, with those kinds of things. So just be mindful of those for sure. No, excellent. So then I wanted to kind of tap into what's coming up next for Kind & Co.
Yeah. So for Kind & Co, we are part, or at least I am part, I should say part of the Northwest Minicon. And so it's a conference for nonprofit organizations and planners who help plan nonprofit organizations. I'm working with 3 other badass event professionals in this community. And we're hosting and we, have presentations that we're giving to help nonprofits learn about event, what can help your event grow, what kind of things are happening in the world right now that you may not have any ideas about. I'm going to be presenting on DEI and why it's still important, especially when it comes to nonprofits. And there may be some information on grants for nonprofits and how do you get those grants and how you can still use DEI, equity, belonging, because we need that. It doesn't go away because, of our current climate. It's still important. And so I'll be talking about that. The others will be talking about some fundraising ideas, and it's just going to be a good time. And it's our 2nd year and I'm looking forward to it. And I love being able to teach people, to have people learn from the experts in the room. Yeah. So that's the next thing. But as far as my company goes, I'm doing a conference in Utah, and then we start back into fundraising season. And so fundraising season is usually, March, April is when it does a slow roll. through the summer, and then we have usually a little bit of a break during the summer. That's when wedding season usually happens, and I don't do weddings, so. And then we're back to fundraising season back in the fall. So
Excellent.
right now I'm on the like we said earlier, calming down. So now I take the time to rest, regenerate, re-educate, repurpose, clean my office, start making connections back in the community, having some one-on-ones, and just, meeting people where they're at and trying to see how we can support each other in this fun event world that we live in.
Excellent. No, I love that. And who would be the ideal Kind & Co. client? What do they look like?
The ideal client for me would be someone who, I'm just going to say, I love a challenge. So someone who just feels lost. They're not quite sure what they're doing or what they want to do, but they might need someone to just kick around some ideas and help them, just get on the right path to making a successful event. I've had customers that we've made up events together and still going strong, 3 years in, still growing. Every year people look forward to the event that the two of us sat down over coffee and created. And I love that. I love when, just trying to find a solution to someone's problem, to try to help someone who just feels like they might be just a little bit lost. And hopefully I do it with ease and grace and kindness, since we are Kind & Co. But yeah, I think that's my ideal kind of customer. Just someone who just really, just needs some support, someone who's looking for someone to help them get this out of their brain, and what that can look like if we put it out there in the world.
No, I love that. I deal with that a lot as well, where it's just like, let's have a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times in 15, 20, 45 minutes, we can talk through some things. And I've talked myself out of jobs where it's like, you know what, you don't really need this at this level,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, with this budget that you have and the type of event, how about we find you an event space that has some built-in AV components that will work for what you need?
Yeah.
And it's just from those conversations, I'm more about like what makes the most sense for you
Right.
and for this event. And a lot of times it ends up coming back like, oh, well, can you do our impact video? Or it ends up coming back in some way just because we were just genuine and truthful in that sense, where it's not necessarily chasing the dollar. It's more of like finding the solution.
Yeah, where none of us are doing this to get rich. We're doing this to provide a service, and having that, that come back to you is always nice. But having that consultation and just being real, this is not this. I don't think that you need, just like you said, you need all the bells and the whistles is really key, and that's honest. And I love that, and that's what we have to be for all the people that we service. But providing a good customer service base and the hospitality part of that is really, really key. And that makes you a trusted trusted partner.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
the long run.
And so what does that look like for Kind & Co? Are folks able to like book a consultation
Absolutely.
or phone call, or how does that work?
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
people connect with you?
Yeah, so kacevents.com is my website. You can fill out a contact me page. If you want to just have a consultation, that's totally fine. I will talk to people, pick your brain conversations quite a bit, because I like doing it too. I mean, it's just a fun conversation to hear what people have in mind, what they're thinking, what their vision is of what their event is going to be. And then, just telling them all the things. I tell people where I find templates. I tell people how I make my timelines. I mean, I'll share anything with you, because there's nothing new under the sun. It's really that organization and having that trusted partner that knows all the things already that makes a difference. And so if you want to give me, come in on our website and send me a message, I'm always down to have a conversation.
No, I love that. And that just lets people know. So organizations of all sizes, events of all sizes, there's a conversation to be had. And I think that's super important. And I tell people all the time, it's like, if you have the ability, and it pays for itself in so many ways, and just headaches, and I mean, in literal ROIs, probably, if you also combine with lost hours in the actual workforce and what's getting done comparative to, people you would have taken off of that to work on the event and things of that nature, for sure.
And when we say event, I mean, I know there are some event professionals that only focus on certain types of events. I seriously, when someone asks me, what kind of events do you do? I just say, I do events. So I do nonprofit fundraising events. I do corporate meetings. I do corporate activations, fun runs. I mean, I do it all. And the reason why is because I love it. I love doing it. But I really like being able to help people whenever capacity that they need. And that's just part of my nature just as a person. So I don't limit myself to a certain type of event. I really do try to help people in all events. So we do swims, again, fun runs, we do walks, we do, diaper dash. I mean, all the things. So like, again, kind and company events at your service.
I love it. I love it. A little bit of something for everyone. No, we're in that same boat where it's like, what kind do you do? Like, does it need a camera? Does it need any sound? Then we'll probably be a part of that if it's the right fit. Let's switch it up a little bit and just kind of talk about that dynamic with the event planner and the AV company of where you see that value when you're kind of talking with clients. Because I hear, we've had conversations, many a times on like budgets, if it makes sense. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I know like for us, a lot of times where I'm like, hey, if it's budget sensitive and you had to give up something, for me, I'm like, hey, you're going to need this versus that and those kinds of things. Where do you kind of lie on that side when you're talking with folks?
As far as bringing in an AV team or on my own
just
side?
talking through like the
AV.
necessity of AV.
AV is so key. It is, I mean, if you have someone on the stage and they sound like poop, that's going to ruin your event. I mean, you have to have professionals doing that sound, doing the lighting. I mean, everything goes together. I remember during the pandemic, I mean, I'll say it, we all just had to pivot and figure out what we had to do to keep, at least for my customers, keep them relevant for their supporters. And we decided to start doing our events on, just like everyone else, virtual events. And I had zero idea about anything AV, zero. But that team carried me. And they made sure that this customer's everything, we did it all on Zoom, but everything had to work. And so, now working, in person with your team, first of all, your team is so professional. They really are. They come in, they look good, they are kind, and they're just amazing. So off the bat, you already have a professionalism that comes to play there, but they're knowledgeable. So everyone knows what they're doing, and everyone is in this position intentionally. It's not, you didn't just bring in a whole group of, random people to be placed into my event, and now I have to trust these random people. No, I've met your people over and over and over again at all the events that we do. And so, knowing that y'all are on site to be there for us, I never, ever have to worry. I don't ever want to give up anything. So if the price is too high, I just try to, try to convince that, but it's necessary. Yeah, you may not think you need this button pushing thing because you may not think so, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, but it really is imperative, whatever the word is, importance to the event. And so we need that, $300. That's something that's definitely needs to stay in the budget. So I try to keep, you know what's necessary. What's needed to make the sound go from the speaker to the mixer to, if it's going to be blasted in a, be recorded, all that stuff. And I expect people to trust me as a professional, I have to make sure that everybody trusts you as a professional. And so I really think that, AV is something that we can't live without it, honestly. So,
and I appreciate that. And you started with the audio component. It does come up a lot, like, all right, because same deal, like you do need it all. Like if you have someone on stage, do you want to see them? Then we need lights.
Exactly.
Do you want to record this magical moment that may happen? Then you'll probably need a video. Yeah. Do you want to hear any of this? Then you'll probably need audio. But if it had to be one, I would definitely start with audio first, like you had mentioned, just because I think that's just where the human experience started, just around a campfire, just talking and singing and sharing and all of that. So like just having things be able to hear is so important. I think that's the first level. And just through like our mass communication over the years, like, started with the radio and then the TV. Right. And it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, if they can't hear you, they're going to tune out. Right. Like even if it was like a live stream, like I'd rather have high quality audio and okay video than the vice versa.
Right.
Because if they're in 4K and super clear, visually, but they sound like crap, then it's just like, I'm also tuning out. Like, this isn't going to work. And I think it all goes back to that guest experience that we talked about earlier, where at the end of the day, if we're trying to raise money for this cause that is so important to you and your community, you need to gather people that have like mind and heart and resources to support. They're already in that room, so half that work is already done.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, how can we get them across that finish line? I think one very important piece is, who is your communicator of this need? You had brought to the table the auctioneer over these last couple of years with TSB, which I think leveled up.
Oh yeah.
TK, with what they were doing before, with kind of, some MCs and folks from the team. And again, no knock, like they were awesome in that moment and they served that need. But when they had that, they just discussed with you, like, hey, what does success look like? Hey, we need to raise more funds. You had brought that into the equation, and she paid for herself and then some. And I think that adds to that moment of that guest experience, able to engage with people, make it interesting, get people connected. But again, if she wasn't able to be heard, if she wasn't able to walk around the room without the speaker screeching and things like that we've all experienced in other rooms, like that takes away. And a lot of it is subconscious.
Right.
So what I talk about is, like, think of yourself whenever you went to that restaurant or that whatever, and you just kind of look around and you don't know what it is, but something feels janky.
Yeah, something's off.
And for whatever reason, everything else is going to feel that way.
Right.
So no knock on any of the stuff, but it's like that food is not going to taste as good.
Right.
Or if the food is off, then the other parts of the experience aren't going to be as good because something has been brought down, right? So it's like, it's this game of how can we get pluses in every category. And part of that is like you're fighting an uphill battle if the sound and the lights, it just doesn't feel right. Like I've been in rooms where it's like, all right, we can either go on or off.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's cool, but it's going to be weird to have lights on in this room when we're trying to, have this moody moment and this heartfelt moment and the lights are on. It just, but then you didn't want to pay for the lighting package, so we can't turn it off because then it's going to be all black. And that's also going to be very weird. So it's these things, right, of like, okay, how can we create this ultimate experience of like what feels right in this room? And a lot of times it's like paying for that little bit extra so we can create the mood with the lighting. We have sound that comes in not too loud, but it's audible in every area. And a lot of times it's not having more speakers in the front that are just blasting, but having enough speakers around so we can be at a certain level that's not too high. We're not blasting anyone out, but you can hear in all areas of the room. And there's amazing audio people that will create these graphs for me and they show me where the decibels hit in the room. And I'm like, this is magic and it's really cool. But it makes sense where they're like, hey, we have to design this audio in a way where it reaches everybody. And for me, it was like, that was learning because I started off with like, man, just put some speakers up, it'll be fine. And they're like, okay, that will get you to here. But if you want to get to here, we got to do more. And it was for me just kind of learning, but then being able to communicate that with my clients. We're like, okay, we have this room of 1,000 people. We need to put these speakers up high so that they can reach far and deep and they're angled at certain ways. And when they showed me the graph, I'm like, this is awesome. And it makes so much sense because, again, it's like you can put a speaker in different seats in the room and it can show you what the sound is like from all those different areas.
That is awesome.
But it goes to that because I've been in spaces and we've had this in my early years where it's like, hey, what was happening was like in the middle. It was like middle back, they weren't hearing as well. And I'm like, okay, how can we fix that? And it was because of the speaker placement and the heights and the different things. And then the next year we were able to fix it immediately. But I just didn't realize because it was like our biggest room at the time and some of these things. And I didn't push the client to go with the more expensive speaker package and those kinds of things, right? And it's just like, okay, again, the goal is the guest experience.
The guest experience.
So it's like, how can we create it to where all these things playing together, the food is good, the light is moody, the sound is on point. I visually have a good line of sight from every seat in the house. So if it's a bigger room, you need those extra screens.
Yes, for
so we
sure.
can make people large on those screens so they can see, right? If you have slides, you need to be able to show that. It needs to be able to be seen from all different areas, especially if you have if you're doing an auction, like we want us to be able to see how amazing that trip to Hawaii or whatever whatever that
Sure
Sandy
needs to see
Beach.
the bid cards.
And they got to see the bid cards, all those kinds of things, right? And they just played together. And when all of those are in concert and that they're playing together well, I just feel like you get that extra 10, 15, sometimes 30% increase in that give just because people felt good about it, right? And again, on some of it, you can't even like write on a card like, oh, did you have a good experience? Yes or no? And it's like, yeah, it was good. But it's like, what got it from here to here? And a lot of it is that overall experience and those little details that just made it like, okay, because again, if it's too dark, then I can't see my bid card. I can't read the stuff, you know.
Right.
So
the catalog. Or
yeah,
the
all of those
program,
things play together. Having an event planner that is paying attention to those things, having a curated, dedicated AV team that's listening to what. Because a lot of times, again, no knock against them, but a lot of these preferred vendors that just come with the room, it's very just sticker like, oh, you want package A. This is what package A is, and it's like, is it really solving the problems? Is it really providing solutions that meet the client's needs? And again, that happens from these early conversations of what does success look like? What is this guest experience? Tell me about this ideal thing that's going to happen if all the sponsors came in and you could just make this a magical moment. And then it boils down to those things. And then it's our jobs as the event professionals to just check these boxes,
right?
You know, as we get closer and closer to the event. Like for us, it's like, are those slide decks done, or do you have that information? You know, luckily over the years, like we've become that full service. Like, look, we'll just design the slides for you. We'll do your videos for you, just so we have them. But being able to have that stuff early and being able to practice. Oh, geez, I can't say enough about having those stumble throughs and those rehearsals. They just add so much to your end result. The more practices you can get in, the better your final will be.
Because it shows that professionalism once again. It's like, oh, this is you're talking about feeling. Well, this doesn't look like, you know,
even though they're thrown together.
Exactly. Oh, even though these are high school kids giving this presentation or this talk or, you know, doing the impact video, you can tell that they were rehearsed and they knew what to say and they were comfortable being on that stage because they did have the opportunity to do those walkthroughs or stumble throughs, like you said.
So help us help you. Is that guiding?
I do like that you said that you guys will do the slide deck and the videos though.
Yeah. we're and then again, it happens like we have full design backgrounds, you know, all the things, social medias. But again, it's like, my whole thing is like, what do you need? I have a popular saying from an old laureate of put some paint where it ain't, and it's real though, right? It's like, what do you need, right? What does your team have? And some of them, you know, they might have the social media side of it. Like, okay, we got that part taken care of. All right, awesome. That's great that they can do that, but there's something to be said about putting a good deck together. And for us, unfortunately, a lot of times, though, it's like we need information to build the deck. So it's like, I can design it, but it's going to be a lot of Lauren Ipsum because I need the content that needs to go on it. And again, it's just kind of like leading with that. And then folks that we work with year after year, and I value building those relationships where it's like, okay, last year I know was a bit of pulling teeth. So how can we help you with that? It's like, oh man, if you could just get with us earlier, or if you could give us a template, then we could build on it, and you know, things of that nature. So we found that to be super helpful, especially with like Chat GPT and things like that. Like, hey, let's put together a rough draft. Please look at it and put in your own stuff. But it can help start the process. Because a lot of times, again, they're busy doing the actual work that the org does. And we get that as well. But again, it's coming from a place of, we want you guys to be amazing on that night. We don't want to, you know, be doing it last minute and having things get missed, or names are misspelled, or they didn't have doctor in front, and you know, people feel a kind of way, you know, like, hey, I worked hard for that. I went to school many a years.
All the letters
and all those things. So like those things matter. So being able to have them done and then look them over. You have time. Like my best case scenario is all things that need to be on screen. So we're talking slides, we're talking videos, logos, all of that.
The whole program.
The whole thing is done 2 weeks out.
That's my dream too.
And we can go into these rehearsals with final slides, final videos, all of that, so you can see it in real time. But then it also gives you time to like digest and make changes if necessary. See it. Does it sound good? Does this look good? Did it hit the way that I thought it was going to? And it allows time for that, because sometimes like we're literally updating slides like days out, day of, and making it work because that's what we do. But afterwards, like, oh shoot, I misspelled that, or I forgot so and so, or
Right.
things get missed because it's last minute and people are
Right.
trying to do their best. But it's just allowing space and time for those things to happen. And but yeah, those are those things that I try to do. So for example, if we have an October event, I'm wanting to film with them in like June or July.
Oh,
Last year we did a lot of that in August, and we found out that we did not get to where we needed to be in the time that we wanted to be because life happens.
yeah, yeah.
So if we start earlier, then that just allows time for life to happen, but still time to catch up.
Exactly.
And then we go into editing in July and August. And then we go into September with just final touches. At least the video
Love it.
part is done. I know sponsors can be funny because you're kind of waiting on them. And there's people that are like, oh, I think they're going to come in and we might need to update a sponsor page.
Or we just got, look who showed up.
Right.
There's someone that wants to sponsor now.
Yeah, like, oh, we can definitely update that page.
Yes, we will.
But some of those other things can be done ahead of time. And it's just putting it on, the punch list or the whatever, just earlier in the season. Because we think, oh, it's this month, so we can shoot the month before. But what you think is 4 to 6 weeks really should be 8 to 12 weeks.
Right.
Just because, again, you're allowing for life to happen.
And you'll have other customers too that you're doing the same thing for.
Right.
So, yeah. No, I get it. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize too, is that we are doing multiple things.
Right.
And so knowing like I really do need the slide deck, because I'm working on this other thing is important too.
Yeah, because we make them feel special because they are.
They are special.
But
Absolutely.
unfortunately, there's a season. So it's just like, there's only 6 or 8 Saturdays in that fall season. And guess what? Every single one of them is taken. We had some very interesting weeks where it was like literally like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then the next week, 2 on Friday and 2 on Saturday. And it's just like, all right, this is going to be very interesting. And we made it work. But a lot of it was, getting stuff early and allowing time for that practice and that rehearsal and that quality control. But the earlier you can do stuff is the better for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, excellent. Thank you for sharing. I got this quick fire round that we're going to end on here. So quick questions, quick answers. What is your go-to event theme that you'll never get tired of?
Celebrate the night in black and white.
Oh,
Because
classic.
it's so classic and clean and easy. Who doesn't have black or white?
Right.
Or both?
Or both. No, I love that.
Don't have to go get a hat. You don't have to go get something sparkly. It's just very classic and always timeless.
I like that. Me personally, I think I love a good sneaker ball.
I'm gonna do one of those.
Yeah. Maybe TSB, they might be open for that. I feel like they could be a sneaker ball
Oh
kind
my
of
gosh,
group.
we're doing it.
Yeah. You heard it here first. If you're not still surfing in the Philippines right now, Layla, we got something for you. Flower wall or neon sign, if you can only choose one.
Flower wall.
Flower wall? I love a good flower wall.
Yeah. You can make anything look beautiful with that.
I like a good flower wall for a brunch.
Yeah.
I love a good brunch.
Is there wine on this wall?
Could be. Sangria, maybe?
Yeah. Why not?
A lot of directions this could go. A song that always fills the dance floor.
A song that always fills the dance floor. Well, so the new song is Boots on the Ground, but people are getting tired of that. But I love it because it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's just so fun.
Fans out,
and
all the things.
The electric slide will always get everybody out there. So I love, any kind of line dancey song.
I like that. I would go with Forgotten Gem of Whitney Houston. I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Oh, yes.
Because for some reason, my son, that's one of his favorite songs.
Really?
He calls it the motorcycle song because the album cover of the art is her next to a motorcycle. So he says, play the motorcycle song. So we've been playing a lot of Whitney Houston lately because he gets a song and it's just on repeat. Good times. A favorite Seattle venue right now?
I mean, as far as where I would do events or just in general?
Either or.
I really like 4105. I think it's a blank canvas and you can do anything. I think it's just really cool. I mean, I love the traditional places too. I mean, there's so many cool spots, but I've actually just really fell in love with Climate Pledge. It's so cool. It is so. You got everything. You got everything. You've got paper things on walls. You got sustainability. You got plenty of space. I mean, it's gorgeous. I mean, you can't go wrong with that spot.
For sure. Coffee or champagne meeting? What's the vibe?
I think it depends on what we're trying to accomplish.
There we go.
So
what does success of this meeting look like to you?
Exactly. If we're just going for it, then champagne all day long.
I think meeting 1, champagne, and then meeting 2, which tends to be more of the, because the first one's like the vibe check.
You're absolutely right.
You know, it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Are we good for each other?
Right.
And then the next meeting is like, all right, we got to get down to some business.
Let's get some stuff done. Yeah, I like that. I like that order. Going for champagne. Next client meeting.
I love that. Well, I appreciate you coming down and making time. I hear this might be your first podcast.
It's my first podcast, so thank you for being so gentle with me.
Of course.
It.
I spoke to you offline a little earlier, and I had mentioned this other YouTube interview that I was listening to. And she had mentioned, she was retiring and she had just decided to start her own, podcast. And it was just like, hey, I might not know everything. And this was about gardening. She had been avid gardener for 20, 30 years. I might not know everything, but I know something that might be worth saying. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I was talking to you about, where it's like there's somebody out there that's hearing something that you're saying that's going to help them make a better decision.
I love that. And I think, a closed mouth don't get fed.
There we go.
So there's that. And we all have something to offer. I mean, and I just love that gardening story, because I told you that I was thinking of doing a podcast, and you said, well, what's stopping you?
Absolutely.
And I think that this is, I think I might just do it. Somebody might get some benefit out of it or something out of it. So
absolutely. Yeah. No, I'll take a moment, go a little bonus content, but it was real though, in terms of like what's stopping you. Cause a lot of times a couple things, one is like technology, but I'm like, if you have a phone in your pocket, you have a studio,
right?
Like literally just find some good lighting. And literally good lighting can be go next to a window where there's some natural light and let the light hit you in the face and put the camera on that side, and there you go. But, a lot of us are coming out of, COVIDs and have some kind of Zoom apparatus that they figured out with a microphone and a camera and a light or whatnot. And that can be your podcast. And it can grow to this, where we have some microphones and we have some lighting, a multi-camera setup. But all of that to say, where it's very attainable. Yeah. And a lot of it is just like, just do it and just get better every episode.
Well, Tales from the Clipboard coming soon.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. And don't let that intimidation or whatever it is that's stopping you, like let's figure out a way around it. And you have mentioned, like what's better, doing a podcast or just doing some short videos for socials. And I was like, both. Yeah. Like what we're doing now is a long form conversation, because it just allows it for more nuance, right? We're able to go deeper into things and get it out there. But from this long form, then the editing team or me or somebody can go in and do cutouts where it's like, hey, here's like a good little 90-second snippet of something that you were talking about. And from this, 20, 30, 60-minute conversation, you can get a good 10 to 20 clips of a minute to 90 seconds or so that might answer one question or provide a perspective that can either give someone what they needed in that moment to make that better decision, or it might plant a seed of like, oh, I want to know more. Right. What is that Deci talking about? And be able to go in a little bit deeper into that. And that's what the long form can do. Okay. Where it's like, okay, here it is with more context and just kind of meeting people where they're at. Like for me, how I consume media, it is a lot of the social media, the quick swipe. But then it is like when I'm working out or going for a walk or driving, I'm listening to podcasts in long form and hearing it, because I have time to just let it do that. And there's someone else on the other side that is also listening to what you have to say.
What's your favorite podcast right now?
My favorite podcast, it depends. So I do a lot of I like to know what's going on in the world because the world's crazy. So I consume some political podcasts. So the Midas podcast. the Majority Report. I tend to lean more on the progressive sides of things, and then some other folks on that spectrum, and then also just like entertainment stuff as well. Like I love the Daily Show, for example, and that's a little bit of news as well. I love them though because I feel like they have a great formula for content, where it's like I'm going to inform you, I'm going to entertain you, and I'm going to kind of keep you coming back for more. And I use it as like a structure as well, where it's like, all right, segment 1 is going to be, hey, here's what's going on in the world right now. Segment 2 might be a little deeper story on something. And then step 3 is a sit down interview with someone to dive in a little bit deeper. And I feel like they just do that very well, and try to take that into a lot of the storytelling that we do as well. But yeah, a lot of it's just kind of just soaking stuff up. Sometimes I'll get that true crime bug as well and get stuck on one of those stories where it's like episode after episode, and then 2 seasons later you're like, what did I just do?
Exactly.
Why do I know about these people? But yeah, no, I am drawn to just like quality storytelling, and it's dope when people can do that in just an audio form,
right?
Where it's like, wow, they were able to be that captivating just like that. And there's clients and stuff that we talk to as well, like, oh, should we just have an audio or a video? Or I'm like, both. Like what we do here is we record, it's going to go on YouTube, but this same recording is going to go everywhere that podcast can be downloaded.
Right.
So it's just stripping the audio from this conversation and putting it on, wherever podcasts are found, and just kind of be able to provide it where people are at.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, mine are all events. All I listen to are event podcasts. It's a little, I need to branch out, but I still feel like because now I'm in my re-educate.
Yeah.
So I'm educating myself now, just listening to what other people are doing and talking about and seeing. And so, yeah, so I'm listening to this, and I listen to the Better Events pod, and I listen to Beats Working, and I listen to Beyond the BEO. So, I mean, just like, so yeah, that's what mine.
Well, it's crazy because there's something always changing. So again, folks that are ready to have a partner, less headaches, someone to bounce ideas off of, and just looking to elevate their experience are folks that need to make a phone call and possibly have some champagne and some coffee.
Yeah, contact Kind and Company Events. The Kind stands for Kids in Need. That's how this all started, because we were pretty much a youth-based event planning company. We've since grown, and now we service everyone, and so we love doing things for youth-based organizations, but we also will help all organizations. And so yeah, Kind and Company Events, KACevents.com, and Kind and Company Events on Instagram. I think that's what it is. Kind and Co Events, one of those two. Actually, I think it is both of those two.
There we go. I love it. And thanks again for joining us and the awesome work that you're doing with and for communities and organizations that are doing the work. And thank you all for joining us for another episode of Elite Insights. And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.